Hello and welcome to highlights from the Epiphany Day Trophy of 2024 as we take a look at the GT3 AM grid to go racing here at Silverstone. Stuart Brandt will take pole position with Rickard Werholm looking for a second victory in the Epiphany Day Trophy, starting from second. Albin Bach would actually start from pit lane despite qualifying in third, with Henrik Horsten in fourth. Then we've got Melander, Jonsson, Martin Brisenheim, Anders Bernström, Anders Brisenheim with Bert Lattinen, Ulf Karlsson, Gert Svensson and Andreas Granholm, who was unable to set a lap time in qualifying. Onto the GTE Pro grid, and it was Melvin Åkesson taking pole position with Carl Sterner and Christopher Moden rounding out the top three. Petter Lillard looking to go back-to-back with Epiphany Day Trophy victories, with Bo Dilton in fifth, Matthias Karlström, Morten Bredesen on his GTE Pro debut, with Per Richter, Nicholas Lilja, Paul Luthi, Peter Brawson and Klaus Versch rounding out the grid. And so, with the grid set, it was on to the race, half an hour onto the clock here at Silverstone, and we were underway with Åkesson leading us from pole position. A solid launch for him down towards Abbey, and was able to cover off Sterner before they even got down into it. In the AM category, it was just as sketchy as Berntsen had a great start with a staller in the mid-pack, was able to climb his way through. Åkesson was leading in the pro category going through the first corner, but was having to deal with quite a tough attack coming in from Carl Sterner, trying to get around the outside in the village loop section, but was unable to do so. Further back though, issues for Luthi, a bit of contact with himself and Klaus Versch, and it was Luthi that was sent backwards. Wasn't the only bit of drama though on the very first lap of proceedings. This, a big move down the inside from Petter Lillard into the side of Bo Dilton, sending him round in front of the middle of the pro category, and also a lot of the front of the AM category as well. Would be able to get back going again, but unfortunately it would be a retirement from the race for Dilton. A poor rejoin from Brandt straight over the nose of Emil Jonsson. It would send Jonsson off the road and down to the back of the AM order. Meanwhile, Brandt would go straight on, reenacting Kimi Räikkönen from 2014, rejoining the race circuit though, and was able to continue. We'll take a look once more though on board with Brisenheim through this opening carnage to see how he was able to piece his way through and would become the race leader in the AM category. Although once he had taken it over, he was under an awful lot of pressure from Rickard Werholm, who was looking to try and take his second victory in the Epiphany Day Trophy. Werholm was trying to find any way past, heading down the end of the hangar straight going into Stowe, almost trying to force any mistake before there was this dive going into the final chicane. Deep on the brakes he'd go and up into the AM class lead past Brisenheim, demoting him to second. After starting from the pit lane, Bach had found himself in third position after the opening melee. Way too quick though into the first corner, into the back of Brisenheim and out into the barrier, and unfortunately out of the race as well. Brandt was coming back into the pit lane after that opening melee, probably for damage repair, but maybe even for track limit excursions. Meanwhile, already rising back up the field after that early drama was Horstrand, down the inside of Granholm, being squeezed a little bit and was once again having to recover. And then straight after that, Granholm was getting past Lattinen for fourth place as they head their way through Aintree and out onto the Wellington Straight. At the race lead in the pro category though, as we refocus on the GTEs, it was still Åkesson leading from Sterner comfortably. A little further down though in the GTE Pro category, and it was Per Richter in fifth position. This was the fight for with Karlström behind. A little bit of a tap on the rear, just such a light one going into the loop, and Per Richter was sent round. And unfortunately for him, onto the sausage curb, was unable to get going immediately, would finally get off the sausage curb and would be able to accelerate. Ulf Karlsson was starting to feel the pressure from a recovering Emil Jonsson, but as they head up towards Stowe at the end of the hangar straight, contact between the pair of them, a misjudgment from Jonsson's point of view, and Karlsson was sent off into the gravel trap. Sadly for Bredesen, the race was actually going fairly well, would find themselves retiring from the race with a technical issue, so dropping down from 6th. As the race was progressing though, we were starting to see Horstrand working his way back up the order on the back end of the top 5, now trying to get past Granholm, going down to Stowe Corner for 4th place. Another look down into the Vale chicane. It just wasn't working at this exact moment, but had a lot more speed in advantage. Meanwhile, up in the pro category, Åkesson and Sterner had been closing back in. A little bit of lap traffic, though, was the opportunity Carl Sterner needed, and he would go through to take over the race lead. Obviously, it wasn't as simple as that. Was feeling the pressure from Åkesson, desperately trying to come straight back through into Stowe Corner. There's a bit of contact on the rear end, and back into the AM category as finally the door would be open, and Horstrand would get his way past, going into Brooklands and up into 4th position on Granholm. Back up in the GTE Pro category, and there was yet more traffic. This time, though, it was Sterner coming across it first, getting a little bit awkwardly placed going through Magnus, Beckers and Chapel, and Orkerson tried filling the gap. However, by the time they got towards the Chapel curve and out towards the Hangar Straight, they went either side of the lap traffic, and Carl Sterner was able to hang on to the race lead. Going through the Stowe curve and down towards that final chicane, it was Orkerson on the attack, would get to the outside and would fully commit as hard as he could coming down to that final chicane, and would take over the race lead with this absolutely excellent move. The two of them would be as close as it gets, as Carl Sterner would once again try. And again, brilliant racing, worthy of the pro category. Straight around the outside, going through turn 3 at Village, then through the loop out towards Aintree. And whilst Orkerson was leading, it did not last long. Carl Sterner straight back to the front of the field. But the real question was, how long would Carl Sterner be able to hang on? Orkerson right there and desperate for a move to take over the race lead once more. Back into the AM category though, and the continued charge up the order from Horstrom would see him move into 3rd position over Berntsen with that move there. And not long after, Berntsen was starting to feel the pressure from Granholm, who'd closed back in 4th and 5th, these two fighting for. And it was getting very close with near contact there going into the loop. Back up to the battle for the race lead, and once again Carl Sterner was coming across some lap traffic. This time though, it wasn't just one of the GT3 AMs, it was also one of the GTE Pros in the form of Klaus Versch. As they would head their way through Aintree, Carl Sterner was unfortunately delayed. Melvin Orkerson took this opportunity and kept the throttle pinned straight down the inside of Sterner and down the inside of Versch as well to try and clear them by the time they got round Brooklands. Pretty bold send there as Carl Sterner was starting to get a little bit frustrated down the inside going through Luffield. A little bit of a door barrier between himself and the back marker of Versch, and out into 2nd position, of course, departing Luffield. But again, that gap had built. In the GT3 AMs though, it was starting to be a little bit pressure dished out to the back of Brisenheim as we have Horston, who'd got up to the rear end. Capping off a very solid recovery drive, Horston would work his way through into 2nd place, with Brisenheim being dropped back to 3rd. On to the final lap of the race with yet more lap traffic ahead. This time it was Melvin Orkerson who'd be the first one to come across them, riding on board with Carl Sterner. And every single corner was an opportunity missing. Let's see if he can find his way through. He'd look to the inside going into the loop with a pretty audacious send. Contact between the pair of them. Melvin Orkerson was able to hold on through that one as they would head onto the Wellington Straight. Out through Magnus, Beckers and Chapel for the last time. And yet more lap traffic ahead. Again, the frustration building, the pressure building as they would head out onto the Hangar Straight one final time. There was a slight overlap from Carl Sterner. They'd work their way past the lap traffic. Carl Sterner would try and get to the outside of Melvin Orkerson going down into Stowe as we would drop down the hill into the final chicane. Would there be any opportunity? Would there be any mistakes? The answer to that question was absolutely not. Melvin Orkerson would come across the line to win the Epiphany Day Trophy of 2024 in the pro category after a staunch defence from Carl Sterner. Back down in the GT3 AMs, it was Rickard Huerholm who would take victory for the 2nd time. And so on to the race results in the GTE Pro category. Melvin Orkerson taking the victory by a tiny margin, less than a second back to Carl Sterner, with Christopher Moden rounding out the podium. Petter Lillard with Karlström behind, Brawson, Lilia, Luthi finishing on the lead lap. Klaus Versch a couple of laps down, and then retirements from Per Richten, Morten Bredesen and Bo Dilton. In the GT3 AM category is Rickard Huerholm taking a dominant race victory by 21 seconds, with Horston behind on that recovery drive. Brisenheim in 3rd position with Emil Jonsson, Melander, Bernström, Granholm starting from the back of the field up to 7th, with Brisenheim, Lattinen and Ulf Karlsson rounding out the top 10. Gert Svensson finishing a lap down, with Stuart Brandt and Albin Bach retiring from the race. Well, hello everyone and welcome along to the National Day Trophy here once again. It's 2024, of course. We last saw you at the Epiphany Day Trophy. It's once again myself, Lewis McGlade. It's Cameron Rodger alongside here. And we always have fun with this. We had fun back in Silverstone. We've had fun in events prior when we've gone racing at places like the Hockenheim Ring and Anderstorp. But now we come to Mantorp Park for some more evening fun.
Absolutely. Should be a great laugh. We've got 2 classes of action coming your way, and hopefully plenty of action in the 30-minute race as well. So it's going to be loads of fun to see the drivers coming and putting their virtual driving skills to the test. And I think it is a bit of a tricky track this time, actually, compared to what we've had before.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to get that same style of fighting as to what we saw from Melvin Orkerson and Carl Sterner, which, let's be honest, especially looking back on it, it was epic back in the Epiphany Day Trophy. Orkerson taking that victory from Carl Sterner, who was supposed to be in this tonight, but unfortunately won't be taking part in the event due to a technical issue. But what a fight it was between the pair of them.
Absolutely, it was insane, going right down to the last lap, and it was actually throughout the whole race as well. Sometimes when you get battles like that, you go for a few battles, then you calm down and go for a few battles. It literally the whole of the 30 minutes they were just going at it. It was quite something. So really enjoyed that. Obviously that was sort of 6 months ago back in January, but now we go once again for the National Day Trophy, and can't wait to see who's going to come out on top this time.
Obviously, you can see the stream schedule here. So we're going to start qualifying in about 4 minutes' time. Once we do, it'll be a half-hour session, so 30 minutes in entirety. The first 15 minutes of that are dedicated to the AM qualifiers, and then, of course, the final 15 minutes dedicated to the pros before we move on into a 30-minute race where both classes will be out on the track at the same time. Qualifying, probably going to be pretty important, Cam.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we do have the really long back straight here, but the track is pretty short at only 3.1 Ks. So that is very close to half the distance that we had back at Silverstone earlier on in the year. So certainly a little bit more tight and twisty. And I do think generally what we are going to see is the drivers who obviously qualify to the front of their class are going to be the ones going for the victory tonight. But I think that also in the practice session, the times do look pretty close indeed. So should be competitive. But as ever, you always want to start at the front.
Yeah, exactly. You want to keep out of that trouble. That is the important bit. Of course, yeah, on the circuit here, you can see you've got that extremely long backstretch. So I've said this earlier on when we were having a little chat about this track. I thought it was because this used to be some form of old airfield or something like that. No, it's a purpose-built racetrack built in the 60s, and that is a drag strip. And it is quite. It's not as wide as you think. So it's a little bit narrow out the back end, but you've got some really good overtaking opportunities around here. But you've got to be brave. I think what we're going to see is drivers probably forced into mistakes around here. That is probably the more likely bit. Of course, the two classes that we're talking about here, we'll start with the car that they're driving with in the AM category is the GT4 Cayman 718 Club Sport. Of course, we see them racing the GT4s all the time. 420 brake horsepower, flat six engine. Not too much downforce, Cam, but enough to get them round and have a little bit of fun.
Oh, this is a really fun car, and it's plenty fast enough as well. It's obviously not a GT3, but still a very quick car indeed, and will have a lot of fun. I'm sure the drivers will. There's quite a few sort of long corners actually around this track. Should be quite interesting to see them balancing the car through there. But then there is this tricky little chicane that we just saw in the background of the shot as well. So I think, should be good fun for those drivers in the AM category. Of course, a little bit easier than the car for the pros.
And of course, onto the pro car then. Well set up. Of course, it's the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, the 992. One that we've seen in the world of motorsport an awful lot. We see it a lot in esports being used. It's a really solid car for them to use in an esports format. So for these drivers, it'll fit in fairly well. Obviously, a fair amount more brake horsepower, about 80 odd more brake horsepower than its GT4 counterpart of 503, weighing in at about roughly the same way, but it's got more downforce. That's the important bit. More downforce, more grip in the tyres. Suspension load could take a little bit more. I've never actually. I'm going to be honest. I've never got along on with the Cup car, mostly because I'm not a very good driver.
Yeah, certainly not the full-on GT3 car. So it is that Cup variant, which is it's actually a bit faster in a straight line than the GT3 car, but it is slightly less downforce than that, obviously more so than the GT4, but it's kind of in that middle ground, and it's quite an interesting sort of specification of car, really. It's it's unique in its ways, but to be honest, this is probably one of the most used cars in the whole world of A, motorsport, and B, esports as well. This car is on every single platform, it's on all the different competitions, it's very well used, so hopefully the drivers in that pro class will be able to get up to speed with it. But it is a bit tricky, with the no driving assist and things like that. It is a bit of a harder one to master.
Indeed. Well, let's take a look at the drivers that are taking part in this evening's racing. Of course, this is in the pro category. Morten Bredesen, Matthias Karlström. Of course, we've got Sterner, we've got Pucci, we've got Luthi, who, if I remember correctly, retired last time. Might have had some issues, did Luthi. I think he finished towards the end of or towards the back end of the lead lap. And Stuart Brandt, of course, just down there as well. We were going to have Carl Sterner. Unfortunately, a technical issue has ruled him out from the race. And then, of course, we move on into the AM category. Rickard Werholm, who won the Epiphany Day Trophy a little bit earlier on in the year, taking part. Obviously, you've got Van der Kogel there, who we've not actually seen in either of the Epiphany Day Trophy or National Day Trophies before. Svensson, Brisenheim, Granholm, Carlson, and Berntsen, all the drivers in the AM category, and what is a slightly reduced grid. But still, very interested to see how these get on, particularly with people like Granholm, who I know didn't have a particularly good run back in Silverstone in the Epiphany Day Trophy. We know he's a pretty quick driver behind the wheel. We've seen that before in previous iterations of the competition.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes a race doesn't go your way, but hopefully we can see the sort of an improvement on that, as we do have cars out on the track as they work their way to start some qualifying laps. There they are at the end of the back straight, the drag strip. Then see how much it narrows as we're seeing cars already going off into the grass. It's Ulf Carlson.
Yeah, just AMS out on circuit at the moment, and that'll be the case for the next while, of course, until we've got 50 minutes left to go in the session, and then we'll see the pro drivers go out. So we're only focused on the bottom half of the tower on the right-hand side. So Werholm, Brisenheim, Granholm, Carlson, Berntsen, Van der Kogel, and, of course, Svensson. Favourite for pole position, got to be said, it's probably Werholm, who I don't think he had pole position back in Silverstone, if memory serves. In fact, I don't believe Werholm's actually had pole position. It's won, fair enough, but maybe qualifying not so much. I'd say, though, he is arguably the favourite to take it, as we can see the cars going through that first corner. It's called what is it, Cam? It's called the start curve. Fantastic.
Yeah, so nice and easy names. Then through the Paris curve and then up towards the tricky little chicane that they added one iteration of the track to work your way on towards the drag strip. But yes, you are right that Werholm, he was 2/10 off the pole position in Silverstone. That was Stuart Brandt who got it, but they did have 1 second further to the next car behind of Albin Bach. So Werholm definitely looking good as the statistics show, but you never know how that is going to work when you actually get out onto the track. But certainly a very interesting choice of track, and I'm really interested how it's going to work in racing conditions, because look how fast some of these corners here are. It's quite a technical track.
There's actually a lot to it, right? It is quite complicated, it is quite tricky. There's a lot to navigate. This is into the final corner here, as we'll head back out to finish this lap. Not sure how representative it'll be from Rickard Werholm, as he'll cross the line now. As you can see, it is a short lap as expected. So it's a 1:20.9. Granholm about 0.8 of a second behind. See what the times are going to be like over the session, going through the first corner at the start curve. And I will say, a lot of understeer in this car going through that first corner. Now into Paris, the second corner of the circuit, and then down towards the chicane here. It was added back in 1981, but then was reprofiled back in 97, and that's kind of how it is at the moment. Really tricky to navigate, especially in qualifying when you can't use that runoff over onto the right-hand side. Now back out onto the drag strip, which takes you down towards the fast right-hander at Mjolby, who, I don't know how many overtakes you can do around here, because it is quite narrow. It's wide open as you head into it, but it really, really tightens up very, very quickly as we head up the hill slightly towards Kronat, and through this fast left-hander, pick it up over the crest, flick it through, hold your breath into the dip, and then straight onto the brakes for F2, flick it in, a little bit too much understeer, a little bit too much asking for the front tyres there, and then this is up towards the final corner as well. Flick it through that right-hander and then prepare it on to that left-hander through the final turn. Wow. I mean, it's a tricky track. There's a lot going on and a lot comes at you fast, and that's even in the GT4s. Wait until we get those cup cars going out to the track, and then it'll be coming at you thick and fast. Decent improvement there from Werholm.
Yeah, that is that's quite a lot, as you say, going on for the drivers. To be honest, I don't envy them being in the car this time around. That's a tricky old circuit here at Mantorp Park, and it's going to be good fun to see these cars try and sort themselves out in the race, but also in qualifying. You see Granholm there hitting the curb a little bit too much, sliding that rear end, trying to get the car settled down and through the chicane. You have to be very precise. There's some big curbs into the tyre barriers if you go over it too much as well. So tough old circuit. But as it stands, Werholm leading by 1 second to Granholm, who we're on board with. Nicholson a further second back, but I'm sure we're going to see the times close up as they still have 10 minutes left of their session.
Yeah, exactly. There is plenty of time left in this one as we're seeing Granholm. We see this a lot more in this. Now, if you've watched a lot of your esports style of racing, you know, whether it is with the DTM Esports Championship, or maybe elsewhere in the world of sim racing, on any of the other platforms, if you've seen your esports racing, you'll see the esports pros will go out there and they will instantly be on a lap time that is rapid. They can repeat it every single time. Right, we've seen this before with the Epiphany Day Trophy. I distinctly remember it back in Anderstorp, where it took genuinely like 5 or 10 minutes for them to actually just get comfortable in the session and build their lap times up, which obviously we don't see in the esports side of things. What you see in this, though, as it does take them a little time just to get into the rhythm and build their way into the session, which I think is fair enough. I think it's almost a bit more realistic in that sense, as there's been even more of an improvement from Wareholm, goes to a 20.5.
Yeah, it's tough to just go out there and go to your absolute maximum pace. You've got to get into the session. I know we did have a half-hour practice session coming into this, but it's always different when the pressure is on and then you finally have that chance to nail the lap. You got to just get your feel for it. Hopefully get a banker in there, a time that's sort of good, but not necessarily amazing. So you've at least got something on the board, and that takes the pressure off you just a little bit for your further laps to come in. But we are getting a little bit closer now with obviously Brisenheim getting up there and being just a few thousandths of a second behind Granholm in second place. So sometimes it's always not about the win, but also how close it is in behind, and that is looking rather good indeed. As we see Carlson coming through the mid part of the lap, a nice line through there. Work your way out and then down, of course, into this very awkward downhill corner in towards the braking zone. We saw him go, some other cars go off the track here just a short while ago. Very tricky braking zone, this sort of extended curb that they've added in. It looks like he's got through there nicely.
See, Brisenheim, I think, might actually improve here onto the front row of the grid. Ulf Carlson might sneak his way past Granholm as well into the final corner. See what improvements we are going to get. Brisenheim does indeed move up onto the front row of the grid. Where does Ulf Carlson go? Up towards the line, currently in fourth position, remains in fourth position, losing a lot of time, over a second. In the third and final sector there. That's where they're clearly losing a lot of time, which makes sense because it is the slow and awkward speed you can carry through. That's where if you have the confidence, you can actually take up an awful lot of lap time as Rickard Wareholm goes faster in the first sector. I've got to say, looking at a couple of corners on this track, I will say with Kronet, right out the back end of the circuit, that left-hander that dips down and then comes back up, almost reminds me a little bit of Bombhole at Snetterton. It's got that kind of vibe to it. It's not quite as narrow, but it has got that vibe to it.
Yeah, I agree actually, and especially with the sort of the dip, which is the big compression of the car. Then you've got to try and get it settled. That's a difficult part of the track. But one final corner go to for Wareholm as he tries to improve his time, a 20.5 already. As he comes across the line, he does improve by another tenth of a second to a 20.4 to just to slightly increase his lead. Still under a second to Brisenheim, but certainly looking very strong for the driver who won this category just 6 months ago.
Looking pretty ominous, isn't it? I mean, the thing is that it's the fact that Wareholm's been able to do this for 3 consecutive laps. This lap won't count. I mean, he missed the apex very comfortably down at T1. And I think probably had backed out of it already, almost immediately straight after that. But it's the fact that Rickard Wareholm's gone out there and has set those lap times pretty consistently, which will probably give the rest of the field a lot of fear. It's not an easy circuit to navigate. Thankfully, I don't feel you're actually getting ridiculously close to the danger at any time as Bernson returns to pit lane after causing the yellow flag. And that would be going through this chicane. That's why you can see the dust being kicked up. I'm trying to think about the corners where you're really risking going off the track around here. And as much as it is quite narrow and there is a fair amount of danger, I actually don't know if there's any particularly seriously dangerous corners when it comes to attacking the track.
I don't know. It is a tricky one, and it's these long. So you see there how it narrows quite a lot. So you sort of take this really long line, and you have to get it perfect on the entry for your exit to then be good. It's very difficult to change your line mid corner. So I know it is certainly a tough track. But they're mastering it pretty well so far. Carlson improving that first sector, losing some time in the middle. Needs to try and get the run out of this penultimate corner. down in towards the final one. Hopefully just one nice sweep of the steering wheel. So I'm soaring at it on the previous lap. That looks a bit more smooth, but is it going to be enough to try and improve his time as it stands?
No.
And no, just slightly slower.
Love the livery though. Taking the PCS livery out for action is Ulf Carlson. Love the look of that. That's very overcommitted into the first part of the chicane. Manages to get on the anchors and slow it down as we look at Granholm. A driver I would have, honestly, I would expect to be on the front row of this grid. 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go of this qualifying session before we'll see the pros take to the track. And of course for their 15-minute run of the section before we'll get the half-hour race. But at the moment, like you say, it's relatively settled at the moment. We are seeing some slightly large gaps in the grouping, but with drivers like, to be fair, Granholm and Ulf Carlson, I would not be surprised to see them on the front row of this grid.
Especially not the way Granholm is driving, possibly over-driving a little bit at this point. He's going a bit wide and over-committing to some corners, especially that chicane onto the back straight. If you go too fast into there, you actually slow down your exit speed and you lose time for the whole kilometre down the back straight. So I don't think this is going to be an improvement this time around. No, 7/10 of his best time, and with just a few minutes to go, he needs to try and work that one out to try and top the 0.4 of a second he needs to get Brisenheim to be on that front row.
You've watched enough laps now, Cam. If I were to give Cam Rodger a GT4 car right now to take around here, what time are you doing?
I reckon I'm somewhere between Wehrholm and Brisenheim.
You reckon? Do you know what? I reckon as well. I reckon as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a half decent driver.
Yeah, as long as it's not Le Mans.
But Wehrholm does look unbeatable, even from that side of things. But I don't know, maybe third place, somewhere around there.
You'd be up there around the Brisenheim, Granholm, Carlson battle.
I reckon so, but that's no disrespect to the other drivers.
Absolutely,
that's just what I'm feeling.
Cam's a solid driver. Cam is a solid driver. He is the, I don't know what the championship was called. WCS League, Formula E something. What was it called?
The Voltage.
Voltage League, yeah, it's Formula E cars. You're the series champion in that. That's fine. So yeah, you've won your fair share of stuff. Ulf Carlson coming now down into Crodat. No one's able to really improve at the moment. The conditions haven't changed. It's all the same as it was earlier on in the session. I think it's just because they have reached the limit of the car, or to a certain degree. Brisenheim, however, decent first sector.
Oh, and that was a lot better through the chicane than what we saw from Granholm a couple of minutes ago. So that is nice. And yeah, maybe you're right. Sometimes when you get to your personal limit, you try and go faster, but then you over push like we saw with Granholm, and then you actually go slower. So maybe that's what we're seeing. But Brisenheim is trying to change that as he comes through the end of Sector 2, works his way down to the Mulby curve, and he is still improving. And he's quarter of a second up in that middle sector. Is it going to be enough to pull himself safely away from Granholm? But I think Granholm is not improving anyway.
Van der Kolge is improving, 6th position at the moment, going faster in the middle sector. Let's see what Brisenheim can do in the final sector. This isn't going to be enough to challenge Wehrholm's pole time. That I can almost certainly assure you. But if you can get within half a second, if you can close that gap down, for one, it will secure it based on the based on the pace of the rest of the field, but it'll also just make him a little bit more confident going into the race. Doesn't quite get it within half a second, but does bring it down slightly on the margin. There comes Van der Kogel up towards the line, improves, not quite within 3 seconds of the pole time, but still putting himself clear of Svensson. So just 1 minute left of the AM qualifiers, Cam. It does seem as though Wehrholm is very, very comfortable.
They're going to be continuing that, going to try and get another win in these, in this championship, but in these events that we do for the Epiphany Day and the National Day. Of course, he's been doing it for a good few years now, and he's looking very good. As there's Van der Kogel slightly sliding it, smashing onto that curb, and he tries to work his way onto the back straight for one final time of asking, can he find any sort of time? He needs to get 9/10 of a second is the issue, even just to improve one place. So maybe just a little bit of practice to go in this one final lap.
Yep, indeed. Like I say, just get your eye on the circuit, get yourself prepared, because do remember, especially for the AMs, this is the last time they'll be driving for, well, there'll be a warm-up, fair enough, but for 15 minutes, they have to sit out of the car. They can't really leave the session. They can't go into their own private session. They can't keep driving because it's pro time for qualifying, so their session has come to a close. We'll see the final parts of the Granholm and Van der Kogel lap, so where they'll return straight into pit lane as Modin's joined. Oh, nice, Christopher Modin jumping into the session as Granholm will jump into the pit lane. So it's time for pro qualifying. Granholm does grab himself the AM pole position. We'll see the pros come out onto the circuit, begin their qualifying run. For those AM drivers, they're out for 15 minutes. They've got to have a breather. Sure, they can get out and warm up, but really the next time they'll be taking on the circuit in anger is the race.
And that's a good thing for some drivers, but I'd say a bad thing for most, because you want to keep that rhythm going. But at least they can, grab a coffee and just have a little comfort break, and then they'll be back for the race. At least you say to the coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker either, but I assume. Drink. Yeah, I assume most people do that. But maybe they can. Yeah, I'm a British mate, innit? So at least they can have a little bit of a break before they go into the race. But for these guys, they're going to go flat out now, as obviously we're seeing them work their way to start their first laps. They're going to go flat out for 15 minutes. Then it's just going to be about a minute or so before they actually go into the race. So in some ways, that is harder.
Yeah, indeed. And like I say, for some of the drivers in this session, like, for example, Christopher Modin, who has literally just jumped into the session, things might be even more difficult over him in the pro category. Not sure how much practice he's been able to put into this, but we'll see the qualifying laps start in the session. We'll start to really see the pace difference between these the GT4s and these Cup cars. You're absolutely right. These are faster in a straight line than their GT3 counterpart, which is very interesting indeed when if they get embroiled in the battle. The GT3 cars are faster than this because they've got more downforce. Because of that downforce, these are faster in a straight line. As we'll ride on board with Peter Pucci out onto the drag strip.
Of course, loads of purple sectors coming in as they are all setting the times at the same time. And down in towards the Mjolby curve really tightens up, as we've been saying. I can't wait to see a few dive bombs down there and going a bit wide, but we'll wait for the race for that. As Pucci is leading the way on the track. He's going to be the first one to set the times as we work our way through this final sector now. Slightly different line we saw there, actually taking a bit more speed through Kernet and in towards the final corner. What is the benchmark for all the other drivers to hit?
Indeed, let's take a look at the timesheets. Of course, they're going. The time that they're having a reference to is to those GT4 times. So we are going to see them go faster. Fair enough. It's a 17.9 for Pucci. Let's see what Bredesen does. Goes even faster with a 17.6. Karlstrom can't improve on that, but does get fairly close. Stuart Brandt will be the next one across the line, going in behind. Then we'll see Sterner, of course, but I don't think this is going to be a particularly fast lap time from Sterner. Actually running a fair amount slower than Bredesen, who's just getting himself into the session. We do now have Paul Luthi and Christopher Modin out on the circuit. Taking them a little while, but they are now out on the track.
And just for reference, though, in the practice sessions, there were some drivers into the 1-minute 16s. Nice. So this is kind of what we spoke about earlier when the AMs are out, that sometimes you don't, well, most of the time, you don't set your fastest lap on the first lap. You've got to wait for the session. Remember, they've been sat cold for 15 minutes, so the opposite to the AMs. So now they've got to get back up to speed. So do expect some tenths to be taken off this, as here's Morten Bredesen currently in that P1 position and improving once more.
Especially no threat from Pucci this lap because the lap time's already been invalidated. That will be going through the chicane, taking a little bit too much liberty with the track limits running through there, did Pucci this lap. So it will not count for him. So will remain in second position, might even drop back behind Karlstrom. Let's see what Morten Bredesen can do across the line. 17.6 the lap time, 17.3 now is the benchmark time as Karlstrom also improves to the front row.
Absolutely. Brandt is also doing an improvement on that middle sector, 1 second off. Sterner now the next car out on track. He's doing a couple of green sectors as well, so looking pretty good. We had a slow lap time for Luthi as he works his way up. Modin also improves up into P4, just pips Brandt for that 4th place, and he'll be next across the line will be Sterner, currently in that 6th position.
But look at the improvements from Bredesen and Karlstrom, going faster again. The first section is faster for Matthias Karlstrom than it is for Morten Bredesen as well. So the driver currently running in second position has gone faster by about half a tenth in the first sector. Bit of a moment there from Philip Sterner going through the final corner up to fourth position. He's going to go within a second of the pole time. Here comes Morten Bredesen. Once again, it is faster in the second sector for Matthias Karlstrom behind. So let's see what they're going to do into this final complex. This is where I think we're seeing most of the time being made up in this final complex of corners.
Yeah, they're 2/10 apart on the lap time, and they're also just about a tenth of a second apart on the current laps that they are on. It's very close between the two drivers. Bredesen comes out to the final corner. What can he do across the line? He is going to improve. Is that into the 16s? Yeah, 16.948. And Karlstrom just 1/10 behind, so they're pushing each other forward, but it's Bredesen with the upper hand.
Matthias Karlstrom then. I said that third and final sector will be the decisive one, and I've got to say, unfortunately, did not actually improve. That final sector for Karlstrom was actually pretty mediocre, as Bredesen's going even fast. It's a purple first sector once more, does Morten Bredesen. So the improvements continue to come in. Pettipucci also going decent. Actually, to be fair, I say going decent. Is going faster in the first sector than Matthias Karlstrom just did. So that's pretty solid for Pucci. 5 drivers within a second, but literally only just as Pucci goes faster. Oh no! Just as we cut to him, he was already having a bit of a moment as he works his way through that fast right-hander, and around he goes.
Yeah, it wasn't actually the worst sort of spin in the world. You know, no real damage to the car or anything like that. Just an annoying spin as he's pushing the rear end of that car to the limit and not enough grip there. But talking of grip, Bredesen is finding it. He's going even faster. Another tenth of a second, maybe getting into the 16.8s as he comes across the line. What is it going to be for him? It is a 16.864 to go 2/10 up on Karlstrom.
Very solid lap time there from Morten Bredesen. I think the fear, though, is that maybe drivers like Pucci might be able to push that one to the absolute limit. He'll certainly be pushing his way round, but I don't know, has he got the lap time? Well, he's just been beaten by Christopher Moden, who's just gone up to third position. So I say this session is getting pretty quick. 5 drivers definitely in the fight, in the hunt for pole position. Sterner and Lucy aren't too far behind. It's certainly a lot closer in present it isn't. And big moment from Sterner.
Oh, trying to get on the power, trying to gain some time, but he might have lost it there. He was on an improvement, might have been able to get Brandt with a good final sector, but I think he's lost the momentum there. Actually, no, he does. Just by half, not even half a tenth of a second, he does get Brandt up into that 5th place and pushes the green machine down into 6th.
Nice, perfect stuff. Right, well, let's see if there's going to be any improvements for pole position. Matthias Karlstrom finding that time in the second sector once more into the final complex of corners and up towards the final corner at deeper. See if he can maybe sneak his way through. Christopher Moden also improving by an even larger margin behind. The final sector from Morten Bredesen, though, was solid on the previous lap time. What does Karlstrom do? He does go up on the pole position by half a tenth of a second. Karlstrom moving up towards the top. Here comes Christopher Moden, though, Cam, into the final corner.
And it's down to thousandths of a second. Can he sneak himself onto that front row? Is it going to be enough across the line? It's going to have to be well into the 16s, and it is. It's a 16.794 to the top. Christopher Moden, less than a tenth for the top 3.
What a fantastic qualifying session we're seeing here in the pro category, building up for what should be a pretty enjoyable race. Certainly in the pro category, the AM will still deliver, I have no doubt, during the race. And Christopher Moden just gone fastest by a tenth of a second in that first sector. Incredible first sector and an opener to this lap. Still 6 minutes left to go in the qualifying session. That is very impressive for Moden.
So we got less than a tenth between first, second, and third. We also have less than a tenth between 4th, 5th, and 6th with Pucci, Sterner, and Brandt, albeit they are 7/10 off the pole position, but even they themselves have a good battle. Brandt improving in that middle sector. Sterner with a cut on this lap as well. So it's getting close between all these drivers. They have just 5 minutes to go in the session. What can the green machine do in towards the final corner? The number 28 of Sture Brandt. Of course, he was on pole position in the AM category last time. What can he do in the pros out of the final corner? Any improvement maybe to jump up into that 4th position? It is 4th with a 17 4:59.
Well called, Cam. Any improvement from Modin? Yes, there is. What a final sector that was from Christopher Modin. 16.493. Moves himself 3/10 clear for pole position and throws down an absolute gauntlet to Karlstrom and Bredesen to say, right, lads, 5 minutes left. What have you got to deliver onto the table? You said you saw some 16s in practice. Not sure you saw one like that, but already Bredesen is up for the challenge, going purple in the middle sector. The problem is all that time for Modin came in the final few corners.
Yeah, let's see if they can just keep the intensity going, putting the pressure on each other to improve these laps in the final few moments of this session. Karlstrom, he's got a personal best sector. Bredesen, of course, he's actually coming across the line first. Is Morten Bredesen out of the final corner? It's going to be up towards the line. Can he make any sort of improvement? What is he going to be? No, he's going to stay there in that third position. So now it's down to Karlstrom. Can he try to get closer to Modin, close down that 3/10 of a second gap and across the line? No, it's not going to be an improvement for him either.
No, that final sector is so impressive from Modin. I think that's almost unbeatable around here. The fact that he was purple in the first sector as Pucci moves up into fourth position. It wasn't a personal best or anything in the middle sector from Modin. And then in the final sector, he managed to pull out 3/10 in the final sector alone. And normally, we'd be like, ooh, that's a bit odd. That's a bit bizarre. Around here, I can absolutely see it. You hook up these final few corners. Look at how tight they are as they work their way through F2, then through the right-hander and then up towards the final corner. This corner alone, the car is going to be so awkward and uncomfortable around here. Repeating a line consistently is going to be super tricky. That is even for a driver of Modin's ability to put that lap time down time and time again. Probably not going to happen in the race.
If you just sort of get the car settled, get the car rotated at the right moment, the right amount of slip angle perfectly to get the exit that you need, then you can just gain a whole bunch of time, especially in these slower speed corners where you spend so much time in them. And Bredesen across the line, slightly slower by 0.5 from his personal best. We do have enough time for some improvements though, and Pucci might be the one to do that. He needs 0.4 of a second to get the next position. He's currently just about 1/10 of a second up. So let's see across the lines. Get a little bit of slipstream actually. Can there be some final improvement across the line? That's still going to be in fourth place.
That slipstream rather is Stuart Brandt ahead. Did see that Bredesen maybe got a little bit blocked on the start of this lap by Paul Luthi, who was coming out of pit lane. And to be fair, there's Pucci into the barrier. I think we might see that a few times during the race. Karlstrom then, personal best in the first sector, 0.04 of a second down on Modin's time. Can go quite strong in the middle sector, Karen Karlstrom. Let's see if we're going to see it this time by.
Indeed, coming through the Norby curve and up towards the very tricky Sector 3, as we've been mentioning. It seems like this is the trickiest one out on circuit. And are they able to master it? Karlstrom there just slinging in that rear end, the car moving around all over the place. Then a very tricky braking, just enough curve, actually not much for the number 19 machine. And in towards the final corner, can there be any final improvement? He is down though in that middle sector. A lot of time to find in just the final couple of corners. Goes a bit wide on towards the grass. And as he comes up towards the line, he gets a cut actually. So that lap time isn't going to count either way.
Interesting, getting a cut even in the final corner. That will invalidate his next lap. We'll have to wait and see. Stuart Brandt out towards the line. There is going to be a bit of an improvement, but nothing major. And fastest first sector of the qualifying session in the dying moments, basically the final couple of laps. Morten Bredesen has gone fastest in that first sector. Can he keep up the speed? Can he keep up the momentum? Maybe not even to challenge Modin for the pole position, but to challenge Karlstrom to get on that front row. It's a narrow circuit. Overtaking is going to be difficult. That change of one position can change your fortunes as to whether you're going to be challenging for a podium or whether you're going to be challenged for victory. Second sector, not great though for Bredesen.
Yeah, lost a bit of time, and it's crazy when you get to these limits. Just a 10th here, a 10th there makes the biggest difference, and all of a sudden a bad sector can be, if you're just a few thousands off in towards the final corner, it's gonna be in the black and blue car out of the final corner. Can he get the run? He doesn't have enough time for another lap, so it will be the final one on the board. Is there going to be an improvement? Yes, he does, up into second place, so he gets onto that front row, but still a 10th and a half off.
Really solid final sector though from Bredesen. Stuart Brandt into the pit lane as we've only got 30 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. I don't believe anyone else is working their way through. Is there going to be any times changes? I do not believe so. So Christopher Moden will be grabbing pole position then with Morten Bredesen behind, Matthias Karlström, Petter Pucci, Stuart Brandt, Philip Sterner and Paul Luthi. These 7 cars in the pro category with Rickard Werholm, Anders Brisenheim, Andreas Granholm, Ulf Carlsen, Anders Berntsen, and of course Andre de Kogel and of course Gerd Svensson being the 14 drivers to take their way around the Mantorp Park Raceway here for the PCS National Day Trophy. What a lap time from Christopher Moden.
Yeah, in the end, it was just a 10th and a half, but that is a crucial 10th and a half that he found mostly in that final sector for him to be able to obviously get that pole position. So really enjoying the qualifying and how close everything is. So hopefully that will translate into the race pace as well, because in a half-an-hour race, obviously keeping everyone close together will be really nice.
Important final improvements there, though, by Morten Bredesen to have thrown a little bit closer to Moden to maybe say that I am here to fight for the victory. Karlström's not too far behind there. In fact, the pro category is not too far separated, so it is all pretty close. Quickly, who's your pick for the victory?
I'm going to say Moden, actually. I think he's going to hold on to it from the pole position.
And in Am? Wow.
I think just because of the sort of slight gap that he's got, yeah, Werholm. So easy pick for the pole position drivers.
Certainly so. Again, it'll be half an hour of racing here around Mantorp Park. Let's get straight into the action and see the start of the race. Moden then on pole position here with a race down towards the first corner, the start curve, and that run round to Paris. We go racing for the National Day Trophy of 2024. It's a much better start from Morten Bredesen on the front row, and he's already almost being pushed by Matthias Karlström down to the first corner. Out wide, Christopher Moden's going to go to try and hang on to second position, and he will hang on to second position. But what an epic start it was from Morten Bredesen, who works his way around the Paris curve in the AM category. Rickard Werholm has lost the race lead as well to Brisenheim, who continues to go side by side for the race lead in the AM category.
Yeah, pole position obviously wasn't the one to be, but I think actually Werholm's found his way back through. So yeah, Brisenheim did get into turn 1, but then out through the chicane, it's Werholm who leads in that GT4 category, as we're seeing a battle now down for the lead. Moden trying to get that lead back, as on the outside line it narrows massively, so Bredesen on that inside line should be able to cover. But what a start from him. He had a bit of a wiggle. I thought he didn't get the run, but he managed to keep it on the inside line.
Are we going to see any looks down into Cronet? There's a bit of a look there from Christopher Moden. Might be a little bit frustrated with him losing the race lead. It's super tight down into F2. Bredesen's going to be able to hang on just for now. Moden behind, Karlström, Pucci, Brandt, Sterner, Luthi, all involved in this train. Big move from Moden straight down the inside of the final corner. That was so brave. There's even contact between Bredesen and Karlström behind, but Moden's retaken over the race lead to lead the second lap.
Yeah, good stuff. A few drivers have cuts already on that first lap. Bredesen goes wide a little bit into turn 1. Huge bump on the curb there for Karlström. Manages to save it, so the car definitely doesn't like the oscillations that you get over the curb's going to keep it very planted, and it's wiggling once more on the exit of Paris. So definitely needs to just calm down a little bit at the front here. But look at all the cars staying close together. So I think it's going to be a really, really tight fight, and putting the pressure on the driver ahead is probably the way to go.
Slipstream, though, does seem to give out quite a bit coming down into Mjolby here. Let's see if there is going to be a move potentially even between Pucci and Karlström for third position, which is pretty close. He might have to Pucci his way past. That's a bit of a stretch, as he is going to Pucci his way past. Oh my goodness me, straight down the inside. And he has worked his way up into third position. Karlström back down to fourth. That was an unbelievable send, Cam.
Yeah, elbows out already on the second lap of the race, and Karlström coming back in towards the braking zone of F2, and in behind Brandt actually, just missing his braking zone. Oh, huge slide still from Karlström, really wiggly on the rear end in the opening couple of laps. Needs to be careful not to overheat those rear tyres and keep on to that fourth position. I think in the background Brandt's also sliding around, so Sterner is going to be looking at him, but amazing stuff in the opening couple of laps. We see Werholm leading in the GT4s, but Brisenheim is staying with him.
Yeah, the AM category still pretty close. Ulf Carlsen went off on lap 1 down into the chicane. That's why he's dropped off the rear end of the train just a touch. He's close back up to Svensson just a touch, but still a fair gap between them. Rickard Werholm feeling the pressure from Anders Brisenheim. As expected, qualifying pace might be pretty handy in the favour of well, but slipstream, race pace, etc., and tyre management not going to be quite as easy, so he'll be under pressure a little bit. We do have to talk a little bit on tyres because it's so easy to overdo them around a track like this, particularly the rear left. As you're sliding through those corners, you can get a little bit extra tyre wear. I've been told that my car has got a little bit of tyre on it because apparently someone drives it with a little bit too much cornering speed, wasn't me? But
Milton Keynes roundabouts, ring a bell.
Don't start. But no, in these cars, you're allowed to wrestle the car around and use up those tyres, but you've still got to make them last half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour is that slightly annoying distance, actually. Is that Ulf Karlsson getting himself off the back of the field. He's going to go past Svensson down in towards the back straight corner at Mjolby. So that is, unfortunately, the number 4 machine at the back of the pack. Let's see if he can keep up with the PCS machine.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think he can because I think already Ulf Karlsson has got his way down the inside, though. Anders Brisenheim has gone through for the race lead. So Anders Brisenheim taking over the race lead in the AM category over Rickard Werholm. So that's the fastest lap of the race in doing so. Rickard Werholm already looking down the inside, going down to the start curve, thinking about how he can already make his way through for the race lead. But it's not going to be such plain sailing in the AM category as the yellow flag comes out. Svensson's been round, I'm afraid.
Oh yeah, from the back. I was just saying if he could keep up with Karlsson, certainly won't if he's gone around. And yeah, for the driver in 7th place, that might just confirm that towards the end of the 25 minutes left in this National Day Trophy 24. But for Werholm, how is the run down the drag strip? Is there enough slipstream to get closer? Maybe not for past this time, unless he's thinking of a bit of a send like we saw from Pucci. And he is looking, he's really a wide there, so you do have the opportunity to go down the inside, but Brisenheim does a good job defending.
Be careful though, taking that super inside line going down into Mjolby, because if you catch it wrong and get your braking point a little bit wrong, you're going for a dive bomb, you'll end up in that gravel trap. You'll overcook the brakes. You'll end up in the gravel deep in the corner, and then your chance of taking victory is completely gone. You've got to, I feel with moves around here, you've got to be very confident on the brakes, fair enough, but you've got to be super committed to the move without overcooking it.
Yeah, you have to have that just slight bit of 1-2% caution in your brain so you don't over push the limits, because at the end of the day, if you go off, as you say, those 5 to 10 seconds that you're going to lose could be so important. Look how close the battles are around here. This is the battles up towards the front of your pro category. Modin in the red car leading the way. We're looking down at Pucci in 3rd place, and he is staying with those top 2. He's less than a second behind Bredesen. We've got Karlsson all over the back of him, who's being sort of wiggly all over the show in the first few laps. So it is staying rather close, and I hope we see this as we get towards the final few laps, because this could be a huge battle. Oh yeah, I'm absolutely sure we're going to see some fair battling. I do feel that Modin's maybe pulling out a bit of a gap now, though. Whether that will change as the race goes on, we'll have to wait and see. But it does feel like he's just checking out for the rest of them. For the other groupings, though, it is still pretty tight. Bredesen second behind Christopher Modin. Pucci not that far rear of that. And then we've got Karlström, who we're riding on board with now. A fair 2.5 second gap back to Stuart Brandt, who once again was quick, as we saw in the AM category back in the Epiphany Day Trophy when he had that pole position. Got involved in a few mistakes during the race, but I will say acquitting himself quite nicely to the pro category at the moment is Brown. Yeah, doing a pretty decent job, just 5 seconds off as we have seen this battle, because Luthi has dropped to the back. Sterner has got him up into that 6th position, and it's always one of those things you never want to finish last, so number 13 needs to try and change the luck on that one. But Sterner, huge wiggle out of the chicane as he goes. He might have even got a cut track from that one as he works his way now down the drag strip. A bit of a poor run, so the 13 is going to be getting a look to the inside at least, but in towards the braking zone. Sterner able to hold on to that. Look at the complete difference in line that they take, where they end up at the same apex. You're absolutely right, by the way, on this fight. If you're involved in a race, if it's a 6-7 car battle or field or whatever, that's fair enough. You can still get some great racing. But the most important thing is, like, yeah, sure, not everyone can win the race. Obviously, only one person can win. Also, only one person can finish last. Just make sure that's not you. That's the important bit. Make sure that you're not the person finishing right at the rear of the field. So there's almost a little bit of gravitas in that one. What a slide that was from Brisenheim going through Kroger. I love this car, to be honest, because it's got grip, but it hasn't got quite the same grip as the GT3 Cup car, so they have to sort of wrestle it around a bit. That's a lovely shot there coming through Kronau, as we are looking from the back of Brisenheim, who of course has led the way since sort of the second or third lap, and Herholm from that pole position is now still down in second place. He's looking a little bit to the inside of the first corner, not enough to make a move, but he is certainly racy, just needs to find a way past, and Brisenheim with that track position at this moment in time is looking very strong.
Yeah, looking really comfortable and collected behind the wheel at present. Will that last though through the race? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I agree. I like how they slide. I like how they drive. It kind of just kind of. There's that kind of like stuff where if you were a rallycross driver or something in that kind of vein, or you had to build up that car control and that, you actually will fit in quite well with the car. It's just because of how you can slide through the corner. You don't have to. There are other ways of driving it, but you know, like realistically speaking, you can slide through the corner. It's an option that's open to you. You've got a lot more of those options in the GT4 car as to how you can rest the track. Counter to what you get in GT3s and stuff, where you're actually a bit more limited. There is basically only one faster way of navigating this race circuit. A little bit too defensive there, coming in from Brisenheim. I don't blame him. I will say Rickard Well might be a little bit aggressive, as Sterner has had an issue in the pro category. Oh, and it's a big one.
Was there contact, as I think Svensson in the GT4s got involved in that one, as he seems to be the car just up the road. So I wonder if there was an sort of an awkward overtaking opportunity, as we're seeing here Brandt in 5th place. Luthi is now getting close to him, so he must have been involved as well, because there's a huge gap that's formed between 4th and 5th place in the GT3 Cup car, the pro category that we've got today. So definitely some issues going on with all three of those drivers, Sterner, Luthi and Brandt.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that one. I think there was some drama there. Svensson did seem to be off the road at Paris as well. As we look backwards, Stuart Brandt struggling a little bit for grip. Luthi keeping him very close for company at the moment for this 5th position. And will Paul Luthi be able to find a way past? We've completed 10 minutes here in the National Day Trophy of 2024. Out wide though for the race lead in Am. It's going to be a little bit too much for Brisenheim. The door could be open here for Wehrholm to come through. Is there enough of an overlap as they work their way down to Kronau? The answer is no. And again, just keeping that overlap, trying to force a mistake before they get down to F2.
So Brisenheim's doing a great job defensively there. He went a bit wide in Kronau, so he blocked the dive down the inside in towards F2. Now in towards the final corner, he's not under pressure, so he does get the racing line, but he's putting his car in the good places at this moment in time. He must have made a slight mistake down into Melby on the previous lap, but he's still doing an overall good job. Granholm is actually staying in the picture about 3.5 seconds behind. They've dropped Bernson completely, so it's really a three-way battle towards the front if you include him as well. So it is looking rather close, considering the potential gap that we were worried about in qualifying, which is nice, and also shows that qualifying and the race don't always compare 100%.
No, absolutely not. We go back to the battle for 5th position in the pro category. Brandt leading Luthi. The gap's now out closer to a second. It's not quite a second. Where Luthi was pretty close the lap before, that gap has grown. It does seem as though Stuart Brandt's able to hang on, riding on board now with Paul Luthi, looking for the opportunity around here. I do feel though, especially a little bit lower down the categories here, the opportunity that's going to be afforded to you is normally through a mistake rather than you keeping the pressure on. That said, we do have battles for race leads in both of the categories. Moden just leading Bredesen, and it's actually very close as they work their way to the chicane, that's why. But very close in the lead battle for the pro category. We've not really checked in a while. Bredesen's doing a great job as Karlstrom's been round. Karlstrom has been round for 4th.
Oh, that doesn't really surprise me, because he's wiggling that rear end all day. That must have been through the chicane. He's had an issue. He is going once again. He's about 9 seconds off the lead now. He's lost in a crucial 6 seconds. So it's a three-way battle at the front of both categories, with tight battles for P1 and 2, then someone just a couple seconds behind. So almost copycat between the two categories, the pro and the AMs. We're on board with Bredesen as he tries to close down Modin, who of course was on that pole position, getting very quickly to halfway through the race after another lap. And it is staying very close. The gap at the front did get up to about 1.5 seconds or so, but Bredesen is closing back in, and here comes some lapped traffic potentially up ahead. Yeah,
indeed. I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to lap traffic, it's what caused most of the drama, I'm going to say, back at Silverstone in the Epiphany Day Trophy this year, when we saw that epic battle between Melvin Aukesson and Carl Sterner. A couple of bits of awkward lap traffic, and it really opened up the fight. Are we going to see the same thing for the AM category, though? Brisenheim and Werholm not separated by very much. Once again, the inside look came in there from Werholm, trying to find his way past Brisenheim. But Brisenheim, like I say, just driving well, not making any major mistakes.
As Modin gets past Ulf Carlson, they're huge send down the inside. So this is on board of Carlson. I thought that was on board there of Modin, with Bredesen sending it down the inside. But no, they were just getting past the lap traffic, as up towards the front of your AM category. This battle continues. Brisenheim, they've got the car down. Svensson getting out of their way on the outside of the Paris corner. We've had Van der Kogel off the track in a P5. Your GT4s is all going on here in the National Day Trophy. But as it stands, P1 and P2 in both categories is remaining the same. Yeah,
half a second between the pair of them. It is still Morden from Bredesen and Brisenheim from Werholm in the AM category. There is a switch position, as I think you're absolutely right, as Van der Kogel's having a fairly large problem around the circuit somewhere, and I think that problem is continuing as he's dropped back behind Ulf Carlson, who's now into the top 5 of the AM category. Back up to the battle for the race lead in Pro, though, and once again it is Bredesen fairly close. They've got a bit of lap traffic up ahead. Not sure which one, which car that is. I think it is Berntsen. Of course, in 4th position at the moment in the AM category. They'll desperately want to work their way past, because things narrow their way down the circuit once we've cleared the corner at Mjolby.
Yes, so that's a big wiggle there from Modin as well, as he was coming in hot. Bredesen's got the run, but actually he's sort of blocked a little bit by Berntsen on the inside. As they come up towards Kronatz and in towards the next braking zone, Modin is holding on. So they now have a bit of a gap. So there's a 15-second gap between Granholm in 3rd place, Berntsen, who they've just overtaken. And they are doing about sort of 5 seconds lap faster. So they've probably got 3 laps or so of a clear run until they're able to get there. Completely different lines between those two drivers out of the final corner, but Modin is holding on. And looking at the lap times as well, there's still fast lap times coming in, despite them having obviously that 13-minute race. So they really are pushing to the limit.
Yeah, we've passed halfway in this race. We've already completed the first 15 minutes of it, so that will make a difference. Brisenheim and Werholm separated by just a 1/10 of a second, working their way down the backstretch. Here we go, the inside from Werholm, and we were we warned about that inside line coming down to Mjolby, and it has bitten Rickard Werholm. Straight on he goes, 3 seconds it's cost him. Well, we saw that one coming a long time ago.
You know when you're looking at the car and you're just like, he's not going to make the corner. Yeah. And he was just kept on going in towards the gravel. He actually saved it pretty well, but as you say, that risk of getting that position now has effectively lost him 3 seconds. So he's probably got the speed to work his way up by the end of the race, but it just made his job a lot harder, so not the ideal situation. There is Brandt, he's got Luthi. Not the car which was overtaken, but the second one in the pro category coming through in the background as well. There's the black and blue car of Luthi. So there's also a few side quest battles out there on the circuit as well. Everyone's sort of on one half of the track. I'm looking at the track map as well. So a little bit busy out there between lap cars.
Side quest battles. Wow.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, it is. That's brutal. And that is absolutely brutal. You're putting them down to a side quest in this one. Fair enough. It's not really a thing we have in sim racing, side quests. We've only got one
go out into the crowd and speak to one of the NPCs during the race.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a side. To be fair, I always used to do the whole side quest of let's launch this car out of the circuit and see what's happening.
When you get bored after 100 laps of practice.
Oh, yeah. Well, 100 after 10.
10.
That's fine. Obviously, these drivers are putting far more practice than that for driving their way around here because they're actually well practiced and well versed. There's certainly more than 10 laps of it. Although I will say, Christian Loden did join very last minute into the server. Do remember he did set a lap in practice in the official practice before this. Literally set his first laps in qualifying. I'm pretty sure he's done practice before he's driven this. He's still doing the circuit quite well. And he's leading the race by half a second. Yet to make a huge mistake in this race, and is soaking up all the pressure being dealt onto his shoulders by Morten Bredesen.
And sometimes just jumping in the car a little bit cold can actually take away some bad habits that you you get from over practicing. So it's not always the worst trick in the world. But for the red and white machine, that is how he's going. So Luthi has got past Sterner there as they continue this battle. So Luthi's actually dropped off Brandt a little bit, and actually it's Sterner who's coming back after those issues a bit early. He's got a little bit up the inside. No, that's cut off at the final corner. So this is still a battle of who doesn't want to be in last place, and Sterner and the black and gold machines really coming through.
Yeah, indeed. Like I say, close fights and all that, which is excellent to see. Up and down the order, not just in Pro, but in Am as well. As Luthi's gone out wide, Stern has worked his way through. And now it is Paul Luthi taking the wooden spoon in the Pro category. Still 11 minutes, 10 seconds to go. Can he close back up to Sterner and maybe find his way past and give away the wooden spoon?
I do love these old school tracks where it punishes you for those small mistakes. You don't just have all this tarmac runoff now to be able to, you know, floor it and then get back on. These gravel traps and even the grass as well, catching out some of the drivers here. Tough old circuit built back in the 60s and still continuing to be raced now. What's that going to be? 60 odd years ago the track is now, and it's still working out really well. That was quick maths. Never trust a commentator's maths.
Thank you. I've heard a lot of people saying that now, which I feel slight pride with, but no one credits me for starting that, even though I'm like, well, it's fine, I'm not salty, you're salty.
We need one of those melodic music backgrounds with the word in squiggly writing and then dash Lewis McGlade's 2020.
Thank you.
Or whenever you said it.
To be fair, I feel like I've been saying it since about like 2018, 2019. So just chuck some of that in it. It's fine. I do stand by it wholeheartedly. Don't trust the commentator's maths, but you are right. The 60s was weird enough 60 years ago. If you
it felt like it should be less than that.
Less than that, yeah.
Time is moving on.
It really is. That said, we are getting some of the circuits are returning back to their former glory to a certain degree. Obviously, you've seen the grass they've put back in for Canada.
Yes, I did see that, which is good because that is a terrible corner.
It is a terrible corner at Canada, and that was a terrible way to take that corner here at this circuit from Matthias Karlström. Straight off the road he went. Fourth position. It's actually cost him a spot to Stuart Brandt, who's worked his way through.
Oh, Brandt is slowly going yo-yoing up and down, and yeah, he has got past. So Karlström in that blue car is now behind in 5th place. He's been wiggling that car since lap 1, so I'm not surprised that he's having some issues with the rear end as the race progresses on. We did have a bit of a lapping situation of the two leaders as well, Modin and Brisenheim, with both of their counterparts of Bredesen and Hoyholm chasing them down for the win in each category. But it's great that the battles are going on up and down the field. It's not just one battle out there per category.
Taking maybe a little bit too much of the inside line was Karlström there at Paris, now down towards the chicane. I don't feel the kink before it gets enough love. That is it's still a pretty quick kink. That is a proper corner. I know there's this whole discussion as to when does a kink become a corner. And so when is it counted as being a corner on the track map? It's kind of opinion and feel. That is definitely one of them, though. That is a corner. That's proper. You've got to put a decent amount of steering for that one.
If it was American, it would be turn like 2A.
Do not. Well, actually, no, to be fair, it would have been like 3A or something, because you've got turn 1, which is definitely 1, but then they'd split Paris in half. They'd give it 2A, 2B. Because why not? Or maybe they just give it 2 and 3, to be honest.
Because why not?
Because why not? Here's an extra corner. Sure, chuck it in there. Ding, 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 ding. This is actually a 25-corner racetrack, did you know?
It can be. Have you seen Barber? The hairpin of Barber, which is actually turn 4, whatever it is. It's turn 8, A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
It's one corner.
Why? Why? Why America, please?
Because Alabama.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. Well, let's just not go into that, otherwise we're going to start a really heated debate. I do like Barber. Out wide goes Stuart Brandt. They're keeping their eyes very much focused on this race. 7 minutes left to go. There is not long for Brandt to hang on. But I've got to say, Karlström's definitely got the pace advantage. Yeah,
Karlström does, but he's sort of inconsistent with it. So you might get close, but then you make a mistake, and all of a sudden the overtaking opportunity goes away again. Brandt feeling the need to do a little bit of a defensive line halfway down the drag strip. But as you come down the hill in towards the braking zone, he has that one covered as he makes it to the apex. As Karlstrom out in this 5th place. They don't need to look behind. They've dropped Sterner by 5 seconds. But we come back to the front because Bredeson's looking for the lead.
Yep, indeed, very close. Christopher Moden feeling the pressure. Tyres maybe going off. 6 minutes left to go in the race and a little bit more. Lute's been round once again to cause the yellow flag, unfortunately, as he struggles. That will be down at Mjolby. I believe it's on the exit of the corner, which is what's caused quite a few issues. You can see the 7 there, top of your screen, stationary on the circuit. Now, oh my goodness me! Bredeson's gone for a spin whilst I was mid-sentence about Lute, and Bredeson gone round, ends the battle for the race lead, overcommitted into the chicane, and is going to lose 2nd position as well.
And that is race done, pretty much, unfortunately. Pucci there, 2nd place, Bredeson down to 3rd, and Modin has a clear opportunity. 6 minutes to go, and 6 seconds is the gap that he's got as well. So that is looking pretty game, set and match. So it's now down to who can finish in 2nd place, as Bredeson just over-committing into the chicane, and unfortunately making a crucial mistake.
Indeed. Yellow flag coming out for the race leader, though. Brisenheim for Am. In the Am category, Brisenheim has been off the road and Rickard Wehrholm has come through. I don't know if there was contact between Brisenheim and Svensson, who also had a yellow flag at that point. What has happened and what is happening in this race? I believe the issue might have been separate based on where Svensson is. It might have just been Brisenheim going down the escape road himself. But he's cost himself the race lead, and it's all switching up. Just 5 minutes left to go. We've got plenty of drama, Cam.
And it's all happening at once as well. It's crazy. The action that we get in this, the Porsche Club Sweden events that we do, but we come back to this battle for 4th position in your pro category. Brandt in the green car, and there's they go past Svensson in your AMP category. And then we have in behind there is Karlstrom trying to get close to number 19, wiggling that rear end as he has done. This is driving style through the kink, the very important kink, in towards the chicane and out onto the back straight. Completely different lines between the two, and it looks like it was better there from Brandt as he pulls away.
Don't worry, I will be gathering you highlights of this race as soon as I possibly can. Because I'm sure there is a lot to go through, as there always is in these races. There's always a lot more that happens that can be kept up with on a broadcast, because it's just absolute chaos and mania. But Brisenheim, I'm sure, will be devastated about losing the race lead. But it does seem as though Rickard Wehrholm's going to be sweeping the events of 2024. Obviously, he already won the Epiphany Day Trophy. Could be sneaking his way the National Day Trophy crown as well. Very impressive. We've not seen that before, because the Epiphany Day Trophy is fairly new for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the record books will stand as we get another yellow flag. That is the car of Sterner. He's gone off, and unfortunately, he is going to be having to get himself out of the gravel trap. Berntsen is he involved as well? Is that a separate incident at the same time? He goes off at the bottom end of the track. No, it is 2 separate incidents at 2 different corners, but it seems like they've both got back going.
Yeah, indeed. Wow, this again, the circuit is biting. Maybe this is the tyre wear that we've been talking about a little bit throughout this event. That we did expect tyres to become a slight problem around here, and we're certainly seeing it. As here we've got Van der Kogel and of course Berntsen going side by side, going down into the final complex of corners, and it'll be Berntsen going back for the up and under onto the start-finish straight. It'll be side by side down towards T1.
And this is a bit of a yikes moment. We haven't really seen side-by-side in towards this corner. Up the inside it is for Berntsen. Can't make it stick as round the outside. Van der Kogel sweeps around, and he'll have the inside line for Paris as well to hold on that position. No, he doesn't, because he goes wide. This opens up the opportunity for Berntsen to come through in towards the kink. But no, not enough momentum to get through there. So this is getting very tense in the final few laps.
Indeed, there is not long left to go. I'm trying to see where Modin is, as we're being told there's been another crash for Sterner, and he's out of the race, I'm afraid. So with 2 minutes left to go, there is a retirement to this one. I will say Modin's working his way down the back stretch now, down the drag strip, not that far behind the 2 drivers that we're looking at here. Bentsen's going to go straight on and visit the gravel trap that Brisenheim, also that Wehrholm has already been into. There is your race leader overall, who's on the I was going to say penultimate lap. It might be. As Karlstrom's been round. It's all happening, Cam.
What is going on today through the chicane? Obviously over pushing there, trying to get Brandt, and Brandt now has an easy 4th position. 5 seconds lost from Karlstrom, who has been wiggling around, struggling just a little bit, and maybe just losing the rear end there on the brakes in towards the chicane. So about a lap and a half to go in this race. Modin leading the way in your pro category. Hueholm leading the way in the AMs by a decent margin both times, but that hasn't been the full story of the race.
I did say never trust the commentator's maths, and I stand by that. It's 2 laps left to go, because this will be the penultimate lap. I wasn't sure with where Modin was in circuit as to when he crossed the line, but it certainly is going to be a couple of victory laps for Christopher Modin, pole sitter earlier on this evening in fantastic fashion. Cannot say he has dominated this race, though. That is the important bit. Hueholm, neither. To be fair, Hueholm was off in the gravel trap at one point, and still is able to come back and take over the race lead for an unknown incident with Brisbane. Maybe he's got more information about that. Hopefully we'll be catching up with our race winners of each of the categories after the race and seeing what they thought of proceedings here in the National Day Trophy, and I'm very curious to hear.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to be good fun and a lot of action to discuss when we get to that as well. But it is staying close between a couple of places. Pucci and Bredesen. Of course, Bredesen was in first place for a bit. He was then in second, made a mistake. He's dropped down to third. He's had some good pace today. I think he will be disappointed if he finishes in third, but he's now just got a lap to go to try and chase down Pucci in second place. He needs about half a second at least to even get some slipstream, so it might be too far on this final lap.
Maybe. As on to the last one for them. Where are the opportunities going to come? Modin leading by 6 seconds. He's just absolutely flying at the moment. A minute away from taking a victory. How impressive that would be. Excellent performance here in the National Day Trophy for Modin. I say just flying.
Doing a really good job. I thought he was going to win by a comfortable margin, but the way in which he's been close has been awesome. I think when we come around to the Epiphany Day Trophy 25 in January, hopefully we see an even closer battle than we have seen. It's been a great fun this evening at this very interesting circuit at Mantorp Park. It's certainly been a difficult one, but difficult tracks are pretty good because it creates these opportunities for mistakes for drivers, and it's been the important, crucial mistakes that really have sealed the win for the drivers who are going to win each category today.
I'll certainly say. Well, 5 seconds ahead of all this, working his way up towards the final quarter now. Christopher Modin is about to come through the final turn and out towards the start-finish line for an excellent victory. Pole position and the race win here at Mantorp Park for the National Day Trophy 2024. It is Modin on top by 5 seconds over Pucci, Bredesen behind, and then Stuart Brandt, Karlstrom and Luthi will round out the top 5. Here comes Rickard Hueholm though, Cam, dominant once again.
Yeah, from that pole position, but he did lose the lead to Brisenheim, who led the race for pretty much all of it, for over half of it, and unfortunately wasn't able to hold on. In the end, it was Hueholm who kept it consistent and comes across the line to take his second victory in a row here in 2024, winning both the Epiphany Day Trophy and now the National Day Trophy as well.
What an epic drive from Hueholm. Again, just kept his nose out of trouble when Brisenheim had his moment. Bosch came straight through, but yeah, we saw some great fighting in that. Stuart Brandt, Karlstrom as well, an excellent fight. Luthi will be one to cross the line. I think the second last driver to do so, because we'll have to wait for Svensson as well, and then we'll have all of the drivers crossing the line to finish. Obviously, Modin and Hueholm there being our victors, and deservedly so.
Oh, definitely. They had the pace in the qualifying. They had the consistency in the race. They were challenged, but as ever, even in a 30-minute race, you have to have the ability to remain calm and go through. As there's Svensson coming across the line, and here are your results.
Yes, indeed. So we can see there, again, an excellent victory there from Modin, Pucci and Bredesen being the top 3. Bredesen setting the fastest lap of the race. And to be fair, not shocked by that. but just again a great performance there from Modin. Obviously dealt with the pressure brilliantly. Brandt in 4th position with Karlstrom in 5th, Luthi in 6th, and Sterner in 7th before we get to the top 3 in the AM category with Rickard Werholm and Brisenheim and Granholm. Of course, an excellent fight there between Brisenheim and Werholm, but unfortunately one team many mistakes at the wrong time. We didn't 100% see as to what it was that caused the issue for Brisenheim, but either way it did cost him victory. Further down in the category, of course, it'll be Ulf Carlsen finishing in 4th position with Andre van der Kogel and, of course, Anders Berntsen, and then Gert Svensson rounding out the finishers, unfortunately, with the single retirement of Sterner. Down at the rear of the field. The only retirement from the race, which I think is a pretty solid outset, at least, that we had the rest of them finished. We can see our podiums, Cam.
Oh, definitely. Just one DNF out of 14, I'd say, is pretty good. Considering how much carnage there was actually at some points. A few drivers sending it a little bit too hard. But these 3 drivers in each of the categories were able to get themselves on the podium and, of course, take the honours that come with that.
Certainly so, and obviously excellent to see them perform in such a way. Who's your driver of the race? Who do you think performed the best in all this? Exactly. Got to think
that
now.
Is a tough one. I'm going to say Christopher Modin, actually, from that one, to be honest. Can't really exactly say why, because Werholm did a fairly similar job, but I'd say Modin was just that a little bit more consistent, I would say.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we are going to jump straight over to the interviews and see exactly what everyone thinks.
I can't hear you.
First off, we will be joining by Rickard Werholm. Hello there, welcome. What a victory. What a great performance. You had a great fight there with Brisenheim.
Yeah, that was a tough race, really. It was strange because during qualifying, I was very happy with the car with low fuel in it. But when I put more fuel in it, I wasn't happy at all with the car during the first half of the race. It didn't behave at all what I was used to.
Did you see what happened to Anders late on in the race, by the way?
No, I didn't see that. No. So I thought he was in front of me, but then I saw on the results that he was behind me by 3 seconds or so. So.
Did you not know, like during the race, that you'd taken over the race lead then? Or did you do you have like a live view of the position when you're driving, or do you kind of prefer to turn everything off and just drive?
No, but it was a bit of a delay on the screen, so I think it took about a lap for me to realize that he was behind me at the time.
Now, obviously, you've swept the events of 2024 in the AM category. We saw you take the excellent victory in the Epiphany Day Trophy, seeing you take the victory here in the National Day Trophy. We sweep in 2025 as well?
Wow, you never know. Yeah, I haven't been able to drive for a while because I have arthritis in my hands, so it's very painful for me to drive that. So I don't know if I can continue at all. But I mean, these kind of competitions where I know the track, I know the car, I don't have to practice, and then it's fine. But if we drive on different tracks or trying to learn a new car or a lot of setup work, it becomes a problem for me.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that we can see you in 2025 back behind the wheel, because we love seeing you drive. What an excellent victory, Rickard. Thank you so much. Yeah, what an excellent victory.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to looking at the replay.
There's a lot that's happened. All right, cheers, Rickard.
Cheers.
There we go. Of course, Rickard Werholm onto the podium, of course, in the AM category with an excellent performance there. And hopefully we'll be jumping straight over to catch up with our pros as well, and we'll see exactly what they've been saying. Of course, the excellent performance from Christopher Modin to have taken that very, very well-deserved victory. I wouldn't classify it as dominant, but it certainly was pretty strong. Very, very solid.
Oh, definitely. And he had the pace pretty much the whole time. So he was able to just sit down the back of Bredesen, who of course was leading for a bit, and was able to then, take his moment, get back past, and obviously then just use his pace to have that bit of a gap. And of course, Bredesen unfortunately making a mistake while being in that second position, cost him another position down to third. So that made his job even easier. But it's because Modin had that pace that Bredesen was having to take the risks. So he really put himself in a great and a strong position.
Well, let's jump over to catch up with Christopher Modin. We're able to see him, but we can at least hear him. Okay, so I am joined by Christopher Modin. Hello, welcome. For one, can you hear me? And for two, how was that?
Yes, I can. What'd you say?
How was the race for you?
Oh, it's surprising. I didn't even thought I was finishing the race because of technical issues.
So, what actually happened? Because obviously we saw you jump in a little bit late on in practice. You only jumped in basically for the start of qualifying. Yeah, fairly late for you to jump in.
Yeah, I have steering wheel issues, so it's disconnecting.
Oh dear.
So this was my first session over 12 minutes. This year, I think, in RaceRoom that worked. So
it's a pretty big struggle, and again a very well-deserved victory. You did have a lot of pressure on your shoulders throughout that race from behind. How did you deal with that pressure?
I don't have time to look in the mirror. Just hitting the brake points.
It is a difficult circuit. You did a great job. Christopher Modin, what an excellent performance. Well done. Congratulations on your victory here for the National Day Trophy.
Thank you, thank you.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Hello.
It was a great event, to be honest. I really enjoyed that one. And also great to hear the thoughts of the drivers there coming to speak to us afterwards. That's what it's all about, having a great community of drivers that they can come and do these couple of fun races, a couple of times a year for the Epiphany Day and then now National Day Trophy as well. So I'm looking forward to it in the future because they seem to give us a really good race.
Yeah, certainly so. Again, excellent performance there from Rickard Wellholm, from Christopher Modin. Great to catch up with them after the race. Great to have you along with me, Cam. Any final thoughts on the event that we've had here?
I think this just proved that when you get, even a smaller grid, a few competitive drivers out there on a very tricky track, it can still form some wonderful action over a 30-minute race. And it also shows that you have to remain consistent to get victories at this level.
Certainly so. Well, thank you for everyone who's joined us here through the PCS National Day Trophy of 2024. Of course, we're back for the Epiphany Day Trophy next year. And, of course, there'll be highlights coming out of this event as soon as possible. From myself, McGlade, from Cameron, Rodger, from Captain Coffee, who's also been behind the scenes, juggling everything and bringing you the broadcast. We thank you so much for joining. We'll see you again in the near future. But until then, have a very warm goodbye.